Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Both Mom and I are really excited to join to have you today. Oh my goodness. And today we're super excited. We have Susanna and Puran Bair, co-founders of I Am Heart, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping people access emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being through their transformative practice of heart rhythm meditation, or HRM. Together, they've spent decades developing and teaching this heart-centered approach, which synchronizes breath and heartbeat to create coherence in body, mind, and spirit. They both studied intensively for over 4 decades with and now represent Sufi master Pir Vilayat Anyat Khan. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. Susanna Bair is a pioneering teacher of heart-based meditation whose work draws from over 40 years of study in psychology, the arts, and the Sufi mystical tradition. She holds a master's in counseling psychology with clinical experience at the University of Vienna. Puran Bair brings a unique blend of science and spirituality to this work with a background in mathematics and physics. He has developed practical techniques that make ancient wisdom both measurable and applicable to modern life. His work with heart rhythm meditation includes collaborations with researchers to study the psychological effects of breath and heart coherence. Together, Susanna and Puran have taught the thousands of students worldwide, created the Breath and Heart app, which makes their accessible life-enhancing practices available to people everywhere. And they have authored 4 books, including Living from the Heart and Energizing Your Heart. So welcome. We're excited to have you on today.
Well, thank you so much, Kim and Bob, for having us. It's exciting to be with women like you, with all the experience and knowledge you have and wisdom. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Right back at you guys. Boy, that's quite the write-up about the two of you. You have a lot of experience behind you.
Yeah, and so I'm interested to know, like, I love how you work with the heart and the breath. That's something that I find very fascinating, and I know Mom does as well. So can you explain a little bit about kind of how you got on this journey and creating these wonderful things?
Well, as my bio says, what you already read, when it came to studies, I chose clinical psychology, and I chose clinical psychology because of all the suffering that is in the world. I come from a refugee family, not to America. My family became refugees in the Second World War. My family has been living in Hungary for 400 years.
Wow.
And after 400 years, because the Germans lost the Second World War, these groups of German people that did not integrate into the Hungarian system, they could be recognized as Germans. They were thrown out of the country. So we had to go home. Can you imagine that happens to Americans if they're being all sent home? That would be an interesting story, right? So we could just spend the rest of this podcast about that. Anyhow, so I saw a lot of suffering in our own family because becoming a refugee is not an easy thing to do. And I think that's such a topic of today's day and age, becoming refugees and sending people out of the country that we are in. And I really saw too, how people in general suffer so deeply, being alcoholics or being schizophrenics or being bipolar, and you, as a child, without knowing what they have, you just see there's something thoroughly wrong here. Something is not how it's supposed to be. And that's what made me study clinical psychology in Vienna. And I had the great fortune, Vienna, psychology and psychotherapy and psychoanalysis is big. It's the city of Freud, right? So we had this very well developed, and they got access to a lot of the departments of mental health. And I studied it, and I saw that they didn't make the difference that I was looking for. Psychology means actually the science of the soul. Right. Let's face it, right? Soul, that word does not exist in psychology. Psychology is actually something else than what happens in mental institutions, right? Mental institutions is where you are really being treated for severe pain, suffering, isolation, disconnect, and and all those kinds of things. And you were being only treated in those days mainly with medications, which shut you down. And I was very disappointed about this and did not continue becoming a clinical psychologist, a test psychologist in Vienna. I moved on, and I ended up in America, where I really tested my meditation skills, because I was a meditator and yoga person very early on in my life, in my late teens. And when I came to the States, I tested my meditations, and it was really not working, because meditation is supposed to hold you together. You have to have self-control and great spirit, and besides that, I was a great Catholic and all, and nothing could hold me together, because I'd lost my language, my culture, no parents, no family, no friends, had to find work and all this. So it was hard. And so finally I had one student that studied, at one point they started teaching German to an opera singer, and he said, "You need a teacher." And I was thinking, like, God, Lord, you don't know how many teachers I have had in my life. Okay, another teacher. And so I gave in, and this is how I met Vilayat Inayat Khan, the name you mentioned in our introduction. And when I met that teacher, I really felt there's something here for me to learn and something to acquire. And there was some kind of greatness about that man. You felt it in his atmosphere, in the way how he presented, the way he took you in. And I felt really seen, I felt really heard, and I felt really the transformation in myself just through his presence. And so then through that teacher, I met my husband, and some years later, and our teacher asked us to create a school together. Now that became a very interesting thing, because meditation in itself is not very easy, and then to create a meditation school and teach meditation, well, that was really where we were tested, how are we going to do that? And believe it or not, meditation is not an easy art form. But heart rhythm meditation is something doable, because you have something to focus on. You have an anchor right in your body. And the breath, we have this at all times. But to use the breath consciously with power, this is what actually the base of heart rhythm meditation is, breath and heart. Right. And that is what our app is called, and that's what all of our meditation bases on, where we have from 5-minute sessions to 2-year programs, to graduate programs, to mentoring retreats, and all the school built up to full bloom. Wow. And I'm very happy that I have found this. It healed my own heart and soul, and I could heal a lot of other people, including a lot of healing from my own family. Mm-hmm. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, well, that sounds amazing, because that's a big history, right? Like a lot of stuff that impacted you along your way to get to where you are now, which is amazing. And I'd love if you could talk a little bit about how the heart and meditation go together, because I know this morning I was doing a meditation, and I often meditate in the morning, but this morning I could not get that monkey mind to shut down, right? After 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm done. So could you talk a little bit about that and maybe help people be able to focus on that a bit better?
That's my favorite topic, Kim. Like in all meditation, we use a posture, and we try to sit still, and and that is for some people already a great challenge. But we sit in chairs, we put the feet on the ground, and you feel that you're putting shoulders, hips, and feet on the ground. Pull the energy downward. But the spine you pull upward. You can see this always in my own posture. I sit like this all the time. And then you take an intention, and the intention can be, I sit for 5 minutes. If you want to sit for 5 minutes, and you try to keep to that, because meditation develops your will. If I say, because I put on my timer, here's my timer, and I can even put the alarm and I say 5 minutes and you're going to sit, Susanna, if you can breathe or not. That's already a practice, do you see? So that can be an intention. And then you can close your eyes or not, just as you like. And you become aware that you're breathing. We all breathe at all times. And you pay attention to your everyday breath. And after you pay attention to your everyday breath, because that's there, that means you're making your everyday breath conscious. And so there you feel an inhalation and an exhalation. And then you can modulate the inhalation and exhalation. You actually can elongate that exhalation. You can breathe completely full and deep by contracting your abdominal muscles, the muscles below your belly button. So you exhale and make the breath slow, full and deep, and slowly, slowly use your body, use your mind to contract those muscles. And when the inhalation comes, you open those muscles. Inhale, make a big balloon down in your belly, expand your rib cage, and exhale fully, deep and complete. Slow, full, deep breath, inhaling and exhaling. And that is already a meditation practice, which you can practice for 5 minutes, which I do often. Take that time to develop the breath. And when you do this, you start hearing the heartbeat or the pulse. This is why in the app we work even with the pulse, because if you haven't paid attention to your heart for decades, you cannot expect from your heart, because now I want to hear my heartbeat, that you can hear your heartbeat. Right. Most people don't hear their heartbeat in their first practice, maybe not even. I had one student, after 1 year, he came and said, Susanna, I have a heart. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it's the first time after 1 year that I hear my heartbeat. Wow. I was like, wow, you stayed with it. Congratulations, Yeah. But we can feel the pulse at all times. The pulse is here in our jugular vein or on our wrist or anywhere in our toes, in our eyes. The pulse is everywhere. It's the echo of the heart. And with that, you can connect them. You can have your hand on your heart and one hand on the pulse. And you can, with this long, deep, full breath that keeps going in and out through your nose, you can see for how many heartbeats do I inhale and for how many exhale. And in the beginning, those two counts won't be the same. You might inhale for 8 heartbeats and exhale for 3, or vice versa, because our breath is not balanced. But over time, maybe after a year or some months, you might be able to inhale for 6 heartbeats or 8 heartbeats and exhale for 8 heartbeats and inhale for 8 heartbeats. And by doing that, you're actually connecting the two oscillators of our physical body of breath and heart, which are there at all times. You're aligning them. And that is what opens up the electromagnetic field of the heart. And then you are an energetic being besides a physical being.
That's right.
And that's when the fun starts.
Yeah, definitely. So can you talk about like some of the benefits of getting into this practice and making this a part of your life?
Okay.
Yeah, well, first of all, there's physical benefits, because as you start to think about your heart, you change the circulation system in your body. And the heart starts getting more blood. The arteries open up. And so the heart is actually benefited quite a lot just by giving it attention. And then, you can't control the heart directly. You can't make it go faster or slower with your thought, but you can indirectly affect the heart by the way you breathe. So the heart responds to the breath. There's an internal biological mechanism called, well, it's a fancy name, respiratory sinus arrhythmia, RSA. But this is a mechanism by which the breath changes the heart rate. And it actually is remarkable because it changes the heart rate, inhale and exhale, changes. The heart rate changes. As you exhale, it goes slower. As you inhale, it goes a little bit faster. So it's changing all the time as you breathe, even, without meditation. But with meditation, you can, controlling your breath, you can have an effect on the heart that makes it what's called coherent, which means the change is a very gradual rhythm like a wave in the ocean. And this is so good for the heart that it can actually repair itself. There was a study it turns out to be in Austria, it could have been anywhere, but there was an Austrian cardiologist, and he looked at, there was a population of men who had received heart transplants from women. That's an interesting group, huh?
Yeah.
So he had a population of these people to research. And what he found was that, eventually the man would die, and then they would do an autopsy, and they'd slice the heart and look at the heart tissue. And what they found is that 20%, sometimes up to 20%, of the cells in the heart now had XY chromosomes, because the woman's heart didn't have any XY chromosomes in any of the cells, right? No cell has XY chromosomes for a woman. And the fact that now 20% did have, it meant that the man was replacing the cells of the heart with his own cells.
Wow.
And that was a remarkable discovery in the field of cardiology, because they didn't think before this that happened. They thought, well, it's somebody else's organ and it stays that way. But no, that organ gets completely eventually replaced, see, by the man. It would have happened the other way with a woman, but they didn't have that population to study. So this is what happens when the heart has attention and breath. Now, fundamental to our method is that we not only breathe deep and slow, like Susanna says, and rhythmically, but we think about our heart as we breathe, and that ends up with the thought that it seems like my heart is breathing. So you breathe out and you imagine that you're sending breath right out of your heart through your chest, and receiving breath the same way, right into your heart. And that opens up a whole line of communication to the world. As you breathe in, you're drawing the atmosphere of the environment into your cells, right, into your bloodstream through the heart. Well, through the lungs and in the heart. And as you breathe out, you're sending out into the atmosphere the chemical structure of your bloodstream. Like, when you have an emotion, there's a thing called a peptide, which is produced for every emotion. So those peptides are in the bloodstream. That means they're in the lungs. That means they're in the breath. So you're exchanging a wide variety of chemicals and energy with the people around you when you breathe. Mm-hmm. So knowing how to do this, how to breathe, and use the breath as a communication media, so that you can feel that energy, and it's not an assault. It's not bothering you. You welcome the energy from other people. You take it into your heart because you know it's not going to hurt you. It can't. The energy, if it comes to the heart uses it. Even if the other person's angry, that's just energy, and you can draw that into your heart, and you can transform it in your heart and send it back as a resolution. Like, this is what homeopathy is. Homeopathy, you take the illness, and you shake it and fix it and send it back as a remedy. Well, that's what you're doing with your heart, as you breathe in other people and send back a healing energy.
That's very awesome. I love that.
Me too.
And I think
Makes sense.
it does make sense. And I think it would be a good practice for people, right? Because you're sending out that love out into the world when you're focusing on that and bringing that sense of calm to yourself. And, maybe that would help the monkey mind a little tiny bit, right? Because I know that that's a lot of
It
people
does.
struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I learned meditation 50 years ago before I discovered the heart, and it was difficult. I think meditation is a life skill. Everybody should learn it because it gives you a way to regulate yourself, to be in charge of yourself. You're working with yourself, your fundamental issues. But what happens often is people go to sleep. There was actually a study made in America back in the 70s that found that a third of the people doing TM, a popular form of meditation at that time, a third of them were sleeping because they could tell by the brain waves. So, I mean, that's nice. It's nice to be able to sleep when you want to, but that's not meditation. Meditation is energy.
But Puran, some people have good experiences with TM.
Lots of people have good experience.
You
TM's a
don't
good.
want to put any meditation down. Whoever meditates is fine. Whatever people do is fine.
It's just that when you breathe more deeply, you get a lot of energy because breath is energy. And so if you're breathing deeply, you start waking yourself up all the time with every breath. The old methods of meditation were more, breathe very, very little, make a very light breath, almost imperceptible. And that makes makes the energy body weak. But it's also a problem if you breathe too fast. Like when you have a panic attack, you start panting, that makes everything worse. Now you're spinning, your head is spinning. So one can do a lot of things with the breath. You can put yourself to sleep. You can put yourself awake. You can drive yourself crazy by the way you breathe. And so it's very fundamental skill to be able to breathe deliberately and slowly and thinking of your heart. And it just affects the whole body's health.
Yeah. Can I say something to that?
Yes.
Please.
See, because it's, Puran mentioned different kind of techniques. There are a lot of techniques out there in meditation, and one needs to know that most of the meditation, when their origins come from different religious traditions, that is the essence where they come from. And where our tradition comes from, we think in today's day and age, to focus on the heart and to focus on the body, have body-centered meditation is most important. That is our tradition that we come from. Our tradition, and this is not even in our tradition, all people focus on their heart as literally as we do. A lot of people imagine even their heart. So to be more precise, I'm not sure, like there's the Hindu tradition and there's a meditation form coming out of that. There's a Buddhist tradition and there's a meditation form coming out of that. And those meditations are not body-centered. In those days, one didn't think the body was important. It was just consciousness what was important.
Right.
In today's day and age, and even in the Western religion, in Judaism, they have the Kabbalah, right? They talk about that, but I'm not sure that there's a meditation form attached to the Kabbalah. And the Christians have a tradition. The Christians talk about breathing or praying unceasingly. And that meditation has actually a lot to do with what we do, because in order to pray unceasingly, the great early Christians, there was a particular order that practiced this. What they did, they put the prayer on their heartbeat. They said it out loud over and over, and then they put it on the heart. And because the heart has a rhythm and has a circulation in there, the prayer went on it. And if you moved inward and listened to your heart, you actually heard the prayer, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. So that's a way to pray unceasingly. So this is in a way where our method connects the closest to, that we, through trying to find through deep full breaths, as I described it, connecting with the heart, that way you activate the heart through the breath, and we're working much more with energy rather than consciousness. We say energy rides on consciousness. So this way we get to consciousness too, because that is sort of, consciousness is the energy that, according to scientists, that is what is everlasting, while the energy is in the here and now, but also in the here and after, right? The energy body is not lost right away when we leave this body. Mm-hmm. That is what is important to know. Yeah. Eventually it ceases. Yeah. So those are all very, very interesting topics, like life after death and what are the beings that are around us and all this, all the topics we deal with in our school, for if one wants to really go deep with the heart.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I think that's where it starts, right? Because when we can focus on our own hearts, we can start to understand this and understand the consciousness and how it is that our energy body, when it leaves our physical body, where it goes and how it acts and those things, right? And we're all just that. I mean, my belief is that we're all just a ball of energy once we leave, and we're just love consciousness at that point, right? So that's my personal belief, but
yeah, there's the energy remains, and as Susanna says, the consciousness rides on that energy, so consciousness remains as well. We heard a marvelous presentation. We were in Stockholm, and we were giving a talk there. And another man giving a talk there was a neurosurgeon. And he talked about a woman that had an aneurysm, which is part of the bleeding in the brain. And in order to fix that, they had to operate. But if they operated, they were afraid it would cause more damage. So they wanted to actually stop the blood flow by stopping her heart. And it turns out that's possible if they had to cool the body down to 60 degrees, and they stopped the heart, did the operation, warmed her back up again, started the heart again, and she's okay. Now the funny thing was, this is something one does apparently in neurosurgery. It's a standard thing. I didn't know that, but the surprising thing was that during the operation, somebody dropped some metal things on the floor and made a terrible noise. And there was a big discussion about it among the nurses and doctors. And of course, she's at this point legally and completely dead. No heartbeat, no breath, not even any electrical stimulation in the brainstem. Wow. They were monitoring the brainstem. She has no signals. But after she woke up, she said, "What was that noise?" And there's no way she could have heard that with her body, So that was an experience she picked up without the sensory system and without the brain, and she still remembered it. So this is part of the mystery of the field. The energy field is still there. It's interacting with everything else, and it stores that information. And so when you wake up again, maybe you can retrieve that information. It's a wonderful thought to think that we retain these experience. We retain this ability to be conscious without the body.
It really is. And I've heard other stories similar to that of when, somebody's been legally dead. Do you think when your body, like when you're taking your last breaths and passing from this physical plane into the next, Do you think there's a moment there of, I don't know, true consciousness where we're remembering everything that happened in our lives and we're really cognizant of all the people that are around us while this is happening?
I think that information is all in the field, and upon the release of the body, the mind is much more brilliant and active and able to just pick out these details from the field. It's like it's like the past is present, you know. There isn't any difference. It's all still here now in the field, and you can see it and feel it, and it goes with you. And so this is one of the things we do in meditation, is we make the past present, which is very important for healing the past, because everybody has some sort of trauma from unresolved things in their childhood. And how do you deal with that? Well, you have the effects in the present from an act in the past. And we want to actually go back into the past and explore that event, but without re-triggering the experience, you know, without making it worse. It's a little bit like diving into the deep ocean. You know, if you go deep into the ocean, it gets completely dark. It must be pretty scary. Well, diving into the heart is something like that. You dive into a part of the heart that you can't see. You don't know what it is, because the mind doesn't know these things. The heart is a completely different kind of experience, but you bring with you a light. So you can re-examine these things that caused trauma in the past, because now you have a light that shines into the darkness, and you can resolve these things. You can look at them, you can see, oh, it wasn't so bad. I understand that now. With my new experience, with my new intelligence and wisdom, I can look at my past as a child and say, it wasn't, you know, that's not so bad. And I can resolve it. And so this is how we deal with trauma, is to bring light into the past.
It sort of has to do, you know, with the ritual that the ancient Egyptians had. You know, in ancient Egyptian, at least a certain class of people, when they passed, they took all the organs out of the body except the heart, because the heart was needed for the heart to move on a scale. The god Ma'at, that's what his name was in the Egyptian tradition and mythology. He had a scale where on the one side there was a feather, and on the other side one put the heart on it. And when the heart was as light as a feather, then your heart moved on to eternal bliss. But when the heart was heavier than a feather, the heart was fed to the crocodile, which was also a godlike figure. Yeah. Wow. But it's sort of that kind of metaphor. And so one of our goals in our school is to help people to make their hearts light. And that's the energetic, emotional heart, to learn how to forgive, to overlook, and to heal the past, to move beyond shame and the guilt and all this poor consciousness, because that's what makes the heart heavy. Right. When one always lives more in the past instead of in the present, or wants to move into the future. And so there are a lot of practices in our school that we use for that. Besides breathing practices, we have also other invocations and long time, you know, where we meditate for longer times to come to this, because it sounds pretty scary when Puran says it's like the darkest ocean, your heart. It's sort of not so inviting for some people, because this is exactly why in today's culture people are not connected with their heart, you know.
They see the heart as a scary place.
Yeah. You know, when we brought out our second book, Energize Your Heart, which I think you might have heard about, we did a big book tour, and the big book tour also had in connection with that we went to bookstores, you know, where they sold the book, and invited people, and I gave a trial of heart rhythm meditation. And so there are usually like 10, 15 people max coming to an event like this. And to that one event that I'm sharing you about, came a Buddhist monk in, and the reason I knew that he was a Buddhist monk was because he was wearing all his robes. For me, that I knew he was a Buddhist monk. And I was thinking, good Lord, what am I going to teach a Buddhist monk? Because I knew the Buddhist method is, Buddha sat for 40 days under a Bodhi tree, and all he tried to move out of the body, out into different consciousness, to not experience pain. So I said, well, I do what I do. I do heart rhythm meditation in the body. So I did my little practice, for about 10, 15 minutes. And afterwards, the monk came and thanked me for my meditation. I was like, wow. I said to him, this is really touching to me that you are thanking me. Now you have to share with me what you're thanking me for. So he said, well, this was really a profound meditation. I said, and why? He said, well, I meditate for 30 years on my heart, but never have listened to my real heart. I said, so what did you listen to, or what did you do in your practice? He said, I imagined my heart. Oh. I said, and what's the difference between the real heart and the imagined heart? He says, I never dealt with pain. My imagined heart has no pain. That makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Who would imagine pain, right? Exactly. But when you really get in touch with your heart, there's a lot of pain in there. And not only your individual pain, you feel too the pain of the whole world. You know what goes on in today's world? If you do heart rhythm meditation, you feel that. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes your heart strong and powerful, that you are able to get in touch with, and that you have the feeling, I can make a difference in this world through the way how I breathe and through the way how I work with my breath in the heart. That's revolutionary. That's what we try to do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That is
so
beautiful.
Yeah. Well, Puran, you want to tell our Cleveland experience? We experiment, we do all kinds of different things because we want to know, is this real what we are doing, or do we just imagine it? Right. So that's right. Just like the Buddhist monk, we don't want to do that. So we did an experiment, which we call our Cleveland project.
Well, see, it's like Susanna says, the heart has pain. It also has a lot of joy, of course. It has the whole range of emotion in the heart, and people generally find the pain, uncomfortable. So in trying to get away from pain, see, the heart doesn't know about these categories. Those are mental. The heart just says, I feel or I don't feel. So if you try to stop the pain, you also stop everything that the heart does. It just shuts down the heart. So we want to open the heart, and that means we're going to feel more. But it's not disabling because the pain that comes at you unexpected is like a surprise. It's like an assault, It's like if somebody sneaks up at you and hits you on the back. But when you know what you're doing it deliberately. It's a completely different experience. So even what we did in this experiment was we said there's a lot of pain in this city, Cleveland. We knew that because we have a member there who works for the United Way. Their job is to collect money from corporations and pass it out to people in need. So she said, Cleveland is one of the poorest cities in the country, which was a surprise to me, but a lot of pain. And we thought, how could we help? She asked us, couldn't you help? How could we possibly help? And what would it mean if we meditated on this city? Wouldn't we feel their pain? A whole million people, But if we didn't feel it, how could we heal it? We say you have to feel it to heal it. And if you don't feel it, it's like you're trying to pretend it isn't there. It is there. It's in everybody. It's everywhere. But if you feel it consciously, you can deal with it and you can transform it. So we deliberately took on, at 3 o'clock in the morning, which was 6 o'clock in the morning in Cleveland. We're in a different time zone, so we're a couple of time zones away. In Tucson, we're 2,000 miles from Cleveland. So at 3 in the morning, we meditated for an hour. And we meditated on the state of these people, a million people in Cleveland. And we wanted to help them. Now, there's different methods one could imagine. You could imagine sending kind of a healing wave of energy to Cleveland, But sending energy like that, the energy dissipates. It's like a light in Tucson. You don't see it in Cleveland. Light dissipates in distance.
Right.
So that's not the way to do it. What we did was instead we imagined that for each one of us, we said, I am Cleveland. And that meant that I'm identifying myself not as an individual person, but as a collective group, and especially focused on these million people in Cleveland. And then I'm deliberately inviting, with my breath and my heart, that the experience of that million people would be in me. The whole experience, everything about it. The joy, the birthdays, the births, the new births of people, and the deaths of people. The robberies, the rapes, the murders, everything that's happening in Cleveland that day, or that moment, right? I want to feel all of that. And of course, if I just felt one little part of it, it might be terrible. But to feel the whole thing, one can do that. And then it comes into my heart and into Susanna's heart, and then it becomes like a personal matter. It becomes like something that I can deal with because I know how to deal with my own emotions. Now I've got big emotions from a lot of other people, but it becomes mine in my heart. Mm-hmm. And I deal with it, and I resolve it. And when I resolve it, it's like resolved, not just here, it's resolved there too. So what we found, now we had data, because I'm a data person, I want to see numbers. Well, Cleveland has every crime committed in Cleveland, they post on the internet. So 500 crimes a day on average. Listed time, place, type of crime. So we had lots of data. And I made a big database out of all of this data for 3 months. And then we looked at, we didn't meditate every day. We meditated
3 times a week.
Yeah, 3 times a week.
But we didn't know when exactly.
Yeah, and we had somebody else tell us what days. So then, looking at this data, we could say, well, what about the data on days we meditated compared to days that we didn't meditate? And what we found is that if you looked at violent crime, so we picked out the crimes which were considered violent by the police department, there was a 34% reduction in violent crime.
Wow.
On the days that we meditated, which meant fewer people were raped and killed and burglarized and so on. And that's a surprising difference because it's only 2 of us. We're 2,000 miles away. But it shows you what you can do if you're like working deliberately, not to be afraid of these energies. It's all human. It's all human beings. It's human energy. It's all heart energy, and some of it is. Some people are upset, and they act in a way that's upset. Incidentally, nonviolent crime was slightly increased. So some people, instead of killing somebody, they just, robbed them or something. But that's okay. That's all right. I figure, all right, that's an improvement. That's an improvement. There's fewer people dying. And the issue was, you see, that we're working with the heart. We're not We're not working with consciousness. We're working with energy, and it's making it personal.
Yeah. So those are more the far out stories. But heart rhythm meditation really helps with some very simple method like high blood pressure. And I had a client, she really, her blood pressure would just rise. And I said, we can help this within a month. The blood pressure will go down. And with this practice of breathing slow, full, and deep, and focusing on the heart, her blood pressure went down, no problem.
Yeah.
But if she didn't meditate regularly, the blood pressure was rising. So she locked herself into meditating regularly for that reason. Yeah. And another interesting story was, I worked with this client for some time, and I found out after some time, because she's very fair-skinned and has beautiful black long hair and just a very lovely young woman. She's a mother actually of 2 and married and all that. And so after time I found out that she was actually American Indian, not 100%, but to some percentage. And she was always silent about that and all. And, we do in our school classes and courses that go for a longer time, and she made friends with a woman from another state, and they talked about each other's life stories, because we do this a lot. And so the one found out, that one of her, the American Indian woman, I call her now, although she was not 100%, found out that she always felt outcast, which is a very common experience of people who have been marginalized, right?
Right.
And so she tried to always hold that. And because they became really good friends through the classes they took with each other, the other woman shared too that her brother had actually shot their father, in an accident.
Wow.
And she looked at her history on how much violence was in their family, that the children were abused, and a lot of really cruel things had happened. And they figured out that the great-great-great-grandfather from the white woman was part of the General Washington army that were driving out the American Indians,
Right.
killing a lot of people. And she researched that, and that man was incredibly violent at home. So today we would say he had a lot of post-traumatic stress that he took out on the family, and that stress never was healed. And that is 2 women now. The tribe, this is, they read a lot of research on it, that were these 2 people that became best friends. Although you hear it, they were like core enemies, and there was a lot of healing going on for the whole group where that story was shared, and especially for the 2 of them. It was a very, very touching ritual they created for the whole group. So, and this is the heart at work.
Yeah.
See, so when we talk in our school about the culture of the heart, because really, the heart is such a sensitive and powerful organ that it's the first sound that we hear in our mother's womb, right? It's the mother's heartbeat. And so that kind of impression, and this impression of the heart is much older than that. It comes from the invisible world, but it becomes physically alive through vibration. And then when we are born, little kids, they breathe with their whole body, right? The babies, there's a full body breath. That's what we try to get people get back to, right? To those kind of experiences. And that's where the memories come back. And you can really do ancestral healing. That's what I just pointed towards. Because it's all held in the heart. So there we speak about the spiritual inheritance that the heart holds, and at the same time a physical inheritance that comes through our parents and the ancestors, where the genetic code is being held in. And so we also have observed, that because I have taught this when I started teaching heart rhythm meditation, I was so excited. I thought everybody should learn that. Preschool children, elementary children, high school children, universities. I went to nursing homes. I went to churches. I went to anywhere I could get into where groups of people were, churches and all. Let's do heart rhythm meditation. And we learned that children till the age of about 6 feel their heartbeat and can speak from their heart. They tell you very openly what goes on at home. Like my mother doesn't like to clean up. That's what my son gave me for my Mother's Day present, right? It was like, okay, all the teachers know now I don't like to clean up. So, and they just speak, So we don't think, because ideally it would be that you create a generation of people that never lose their connection to their heart. But that's a dream, right? But what we know, that if we create a significant amount of people who stay connected with their heart or who want to be with their heart, I think this world would significantly change.
You bet.
I would.
You
Yeah,
bet.
we agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that you're making it in the right step, because I think it doesn't have to be a dream. It can become a reality. So
Right.
I think that's a really good thing. And we appreciate that you are, running the school and stuff. So can you tell everybody where they can find you? And maybe show us your book if you have it.
Yeah, show us your book.
Our website is iamheart.org. So I am heart. And if you put /gift, you'll get some free things from us. It talks about where to get the app for your mobile device that measures your heartbeat and gives you a graph of your heart rate variability. It tells you about free courses that we have. Our courses that we're offering for free are live. I mean, to say they're over the internet, but they're live. They're with a real teacher who's present, who you can talk to and ask questions.
Nice.
And that happens every day except the weekends, maybe even through the weekends. And I think we've expanded that. And then it'll tell you also about courses and things like that we have. We're a very busy school. I mean, we have lots and lots of courses on different things, all related to the heart. The heart's our topic. It's all about the heart.
Right. Beautiful.
That is beautiful. And that's very gracious of you to offer free gifts to
So
people,
much,
because,
yeah.
you can say that you're trying to get your word out there and get people, bringing this heart-centered meditation to the world to help heal the world and heal ourselves. So
Bring us together.
So if you had a final thought to leave with everybody, what would it be?
Everybody should meditate. And it's a life skill, but you should do it with your heart, because that's where you'll have the most effect for yourself and the world around you.
My message would be, whatever you want to receive, give it away. If I want to receive love or become a beloved or a lover, I should love people a lot. If I want to become wealthy, I should give away all my money. Maybe I become wealthy. It sounds pretty much like a lunatic, right?
No, it means you should help other people get wealthy.
Yes.
And then you'll get wealthy.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Can we see your book then? Can you put it up on the screen?
I don't have one.
You don't have the book? Okay. That's okay.
I just have this. Oh, you cannot see it with my
Yep.
screen. Never mind.
That's okay.
It's called Living from the Heart.
Yeah. so
Living from the
everybody-
heart and energize your heart. And you get it on Amazon, or you can write to us. We send you a free copy if you write to us.
Yeah.
We give away all our books for free.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a beautiful
Oh, yeah.
thing. Oh, my God. Yes, it's lovely.
It is. Well, thank you both for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate the message that you're putting out into the world, and like we said, helping people realize the dream of, living in a more beautiful world that has less contempt and
All the
anger
rest of
and
it.
crying and stuff. So thank you so much for joining us and for doing
Thank you so much.
It's a great work that you're doing, bringing a lot of important information to people. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And everybody else, we will see you on the next one.
Thank you so much. Much blessing and much love.
You too.